My name is Brandon Wening, and I'm the Deputy Division Director of Air Traffic Services here for the United States VATSIM Division. We're super pleased that everyone showed up tonight learning a bit about, well, what it is to be a staff member, why and how easy it is to become a marketing expert in yourself, hence the name, and what kind of an impact you can provide in these staff positions. We had a meeting about a couple of months ago with Joe, our staff development manager, who couldn't be here tonight due to work. So we are recording this session and we'll be sharing it afterwards. We talked to a handful of members around the division and asked, what would be helpful for you guys? What would get you interested in staff position? And many folks responded with, well, it's just hard to take the first step, take the plunge, really put in the application materials because for most, especially if you're in your younger years and you haven't gone to, let's say, college yet even, this is a very new topic. So this presentation is really meant for all ages to learn about how we can apply these skills about marketing yourself, both specifically to applying to the type of roles we see on our network. But everything I tell you here today is through my own experience of going through, these types of roles. I've had a long career here in VAT USA, also with the lessons that I learned in the real world, and also being an advisor to others in the real world going through this type of stuff. So without further delay, we're going to get into it, just talking quickly about this agenda. We're going to first talk about identifying your talents, discussing some of the staffing opportunities we have in the division. We're going to really take a dive into those role application materials, which obviously are the deliverables and your first impression when applying for a role. We'll talk about how to ace an interview, what you can do to prep for it. And then finally, some tips and tricks for when you're starting in your new role. So let's get into this. Identifying your talents. For those of you who are familiar with this, this will be a good refresher. And for those of you who may have not taken a peek and understand how our staff structure works in the division, this will be great notes to take down. I do encourage everybody in here to take notes and to ask questions at the end. Like I said, I can't see the chat, so I encourage everyone to jot these down, and we can have a lengthy discussion about them at the end. I labeled this as the Arctic Junior staff, and this consists of 3 of our 6 recognized staff positions for our Arctics in the division. And this is the subtitle there for those who love to do, because this group of people, while considered the entry-level positions or the positions you might be interested in getting into if this is your first time being a staff member, is all about the people who are actually producing something of tangible value for the community. If you're an events coordinator, you're directly responsible for planning, coordinating with other Arctics and executing your Arctic events and other kind of community-related events. Your facility engineer is all about creating and maintaining those Arctic resources. Those controlling maps that you get online and use in your day-to-day controlling, those just didn't magically appear there. Someone had to develop these. Someone has to figure out what is going to go in your SOPs when you're studying how to control at one particular airport, and so much more. There's a lot that the facility engineers touch that sometimes you don't even think about. So a great opportunity to really get your hands dirty in this position. And if you have a little bit more of a technical brain and maybe you know how to code, this is also a great role, the webmaster role, which is in charge of coding, developing, and maintaining that Arctic website and other technical platforms throughout the Arctic. So there are 3 staff positions listed here, but that doesn't mean that there are just 3 members who are considered staff who can actually make an impact in an Arctic. It's also important to know that some Arctics are actually utilizing the team structure now, where there may be one designated point of contact, one head EC, but there may be many assistant ECs or event team members or web team members, etc., etc. And this is a great opportunity for everyone to get involved and give back to Arctic, even if they're not ready to maybe lead the charge on events. Maybe you're interested and you're like, I really want to learn how to code, and I don't necessarily know how, but I want to give back to my Arctic. I love being here. I want to learn from a couple people who know what they're doing. This is also a great opportunity to do that, because these jobs are not expected for you to know everything, especially as a team member. So all of that really comes to fruition when we take a look later at the job postings, and we'll dive into that a bit more. But for those of us who are a little bit more experienced and senior in our training and know a lot about controlling, and you're ready to take that next step and start teaching, this is something that all of us have had affect us, right? We've all had a mentor or an instructor go through and teach us the next reading, or teach me how to do a proper landing clearance with traffic on final and a guy in the pattern. These mentors are teaching the next generation of our controllers. The instructors also have that responsibility, and then they perform the controller evaluation. They're the ones who are upholding the standards throughout our division, all led and organized and overseen by a training administrator who, the single person, has the job of establishing the program curriculum, creating training policy, coordinating with the rest of the division training administrators and even division staff like myself to go over important topics, changes, network-wide changes as well. So there are so many different levels, even in just training, that we require volunteers, but you have room to grow in not just your controlling abilities, but also teaching. I can confidently say, as someone who does teach in the real world, that it is a skill that I learned by doing this. That I did learn a lot by being a mentor and working my way up and becoming an instructor and becoming a training administrator. I have done all these roles on this page, and there are so many amazing lessons that you learn from this that apply both in my current role, even as VATUSA 2, my current job in the real world, etc., etc. This is a very satisfying way that you can go, because you are directly impacting other members of your community. So if giving back and continuing this hobby long after you are around is something that's important, then this is a great way to put in some time and volunteer. Now, finally, the big overhead picture here is our senior staff, right? These are the managers. These are the people who are actively working on the day-to-day Arctic operations, such as the DATM, who assists with the ATM, who has the ultimate burden of running the facility, establishing the Arctic goals, managing the staff, handling behavioral issues, complaints, compliments, establishing the culture and the vision of an Arctic. There's a lot that goes on at this level that really gets done behind the scenes. So if you're someone who has management experience or someone who has done these junior staff roles and you're ready to take that next step and begin leading newer members in those positions, then this is a great area for you to be looking as well. Typically you're going to want to be looking for a DATM who has some of those junior staff experiences under their belt. In the ATM, obviously you want to have some training experience, as well as maybe even those junior staff positions, DATM experience. There's a lot that goes into it, but this is a high-level overview of what we have for our staff opportunities in the Arctics. And finally, we have teams at the division level. We have opportunities here. If you're interested in overseeing airspace, coordinating with other TMU, traffic management units, throughout the division while events are going on. You can come and learn to become a part of our command center traffic management units. You can also spread useful educational materials if you like social media. Maybe you're a banner creator. We're still hiring people in the social media team for VATUSA. There are lots of cool engagements currently in the process there, and great ways to get involved if that's something you're interested in. Web services. We are always in need of more web developers, people who are experienced and who know the ins and outs of what we would need at a high level. Is really what we look for at the division level, because our technology, our platforms will quite literally reach tens of thousands of people, because we don't just develop stuff for our controllers, we also are developing resources for the pilots that call our airspace home. So these VATUSA teams are just another way that you can make an impact at a much larger level, even across the entire division. And you can combine multiple of those opportunities together. There's nothing that says you just have to be a social media team member on VATUSA and you can't be a mentor. Or maybe you like to do an FE on top of that and you have a lot of time. There's a whole slew of different combinations that you can personally make. And on the screen, this is where we really narrow it down, right? I give you the whole overview of what we have to offer, but now it's time for us to identify our skills. So you have to ask yourself a couple of questions that are really important. First off, what interests you? You have to like what you do. This is a volunteer organization and no one gets paid. So if you just see a position open up and you're like, oh, I don't care what it is, I'm just going to apply for it, and you don't really like it, you're not really sold on it, well, that could potentially cause a whole nother problem, because you may get burnt out, you may not produce as well as you need to, and the Arctic may have to go and hire another person just a few months down the line. You may also be left with a bad taste in your mouth and be robbed of a potential awesome staff opportunity that could have been if you had just held on and asked yourself, what actually am I looking for? It plays right into that second one. What am I good at? Play to your strengths, right? Everyone in here is already good at something. This isn't saying that you can't get good at something else, but there's always a baseline that we can rely back on. And it directly relates again into this third point. What are you going to bring to the table? Self-reflect and ask yourself, what are your valuable skills and your traits? Maybe you don't even have a bunch of hard skills, but maybe it's the soft skills, such as you're a good public speaker, or you can communicate well, you're sympathetic, you have a lot of time. There are a whole slew of different characteristics that can make each staff role successful. And guys, the most important thing is none of them are the same. Okay, each role throughout your life, the division, it all requires different things. And that's why this self-reflection is important. So how do you prepare? How do you make yourself successful? Well, you need to do your own research. You need to go in and actually understand what will this role require of me? How about talking to current an EC if you're interested in becoming the Cleveland EC, for example? That position's not open. I'm just using some examples. Maybe it would be helpful to go talk to an EC right next door. Get a lay of the land, understand what's going on. What does the EC position require of you in this region? So there are a bunch of different ways you can get involved, but all of these require that pesky application that we were talking about. Now, getting involved in and deeply dived into these, the first thing you look at is the job posting, right? This is the outline of all the roles, responsibilities, the requirements, such as you have to have an S3 rating, or maybe you have an experience level required, or saying that this position has to be available on the weekends. Things like that are all going to be laid out here, and that's where a lot of those questions that we just talked about of conducting your own research can be answered. Not all of them will be, but this is where you want to start. The next thing is you've decided, okay, this job looks great. I've identified that my talents, I align with this job posting enough right? 70-80% range is when you should typically consider applying. Nothing says you have to match everything 100%, unless it's something of a hard requirement, such as a controller rating or specific numbers in that regard. Now you've decided, okay, I'm going to apply, and it says in here I have to include a resume and I have to include a cover letter. Well, this resume, typically what everyone goes to, and the most common thing I see is I'm going to go to Word, or I'm going to go online to Google, and I'm going to find the template, and I'm going to fill this out very quickly, and I'm going to get it in. And I know that because I get applications within about 30 minutes of posting a job, and that's not enough time to actually go through and make something that you're proud of. Because what you see on your screen right now is your first impression for someone who is about to hire you. It's on paper. Even if they know you before, this is how you are going to approach the role. That's what manager. So you have to take the time in the resume. Finally, the cover letter, elaborating on why your experience listed in your resume satisfies the role requirements listed on the job posting. That cover letter is quite literally the bridge between the two, and it states it's your short argument as to why you would be good and a good fit for the role. Oh, sorry, that's backwards. Let's get into the do's and don'ts of writing your resume. Do format your resume. How your resume looks matters just as much as what it actually says. This is an area that, again, I commonly see people forget or just disregard. It's very, very important that it looks good and looks professional. But at the same time, we also don't want it to include extraneous information or be too lengthy, include things that don't apply to this position, right? Your resume should not be longer than 1 to 2 pages. Typically, it should be about 1. You should have to justify why it's 2 pages. I should be able to read your resume in under a minute at the maximum, more closely to 30 seconds. I should be able to skim it and get my mental picture of your experience and what you bring to the role already. So it's important that you tailor it to each role that you're applying for. If you're applying for an EC role, it might be different qualifications listed than what you're doing if you have web experience as well and you want to apply to the web team. Now, include all relevant experience. Do not discount your little things, right? I've seen Boy Scouts put on this before. That's important. People know, typically in these very common groups, clubs, they know the kind of people, and if you're earning awards or achievements, they already know what you kind of had to go through in order to earn these. So things like that do matter. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're not, putting extraneous information in there, but do include all relevant experience. Do not fake it. Do not put false information. Do not try and inflame your experience. It just makes it less genuine. It automatically makes me think of you as a car salesman. You're trying to push me to pick you instead of presenting yourself as the best option. That's a very important thing. Don't be a car salesman, be a presenter. Most importantly, don't just list your experience. Include 2 to 3 bullet points behind it. They only have to be about half a line to 1 line. You can go on to a second line if you wish on a bullet point, but they don't have to be complete sentences. They don't need punctuation. Describe your experience. Again, this is an overview. I should be able to review it in about 30 to 60 seconds. Highlight your growth, the skills gained, and the role and the experience that you did. If it's an education, if it's a volunteer organization, or another staff position that you've already done on the network or real world, talk about it. Let me know what you did. What did you accomplish? Is there anything cool? Numbers. Always quantify what you have done if you can. Organize a live event with over 40 attendees over a 3-day span twice. That's great. I already have a bigger picture. That's a very exclusive event that is demanding. I get the picture. Finally, to wrap it all up, do not copy and paste, meaning don't just use the language in the template that you downloaded. Using templates is totally fine, but you need to make it your resume unique to yourself. This is you that you're presenting. You cannot be the one that goes, lorem ipsum at the bottom and just saying, I'm really excited to be in this role. I appreciate the opportunities, and then that's it. Right? Make this your language. This should be how you're talking to a presenter and to an interviewer. Colors don't always mean everything. I just did a quick Google search a couple days ago when I was putting this together and saw these two resumes, and it stood out. Both of these get my attention equally. They're both clean. They're professional. They don't have a huge banner and a bunch of color and a lot of distractions. They're organized. It's easy for me to understand the sections, and I get the information that I need. Both of these are equally as good. So don't always think the more color is better. What's a cover letter? Cover letter is actually a letter. Okay, you need to actually write a salutation and a signature, the date. This is a great skill for everyone to have. We don't write letters anymore, except for things like this, and it's even digital, right? So you don't even have to worry about figuring out the address of our offices. We don't have one. But you do need to provide the context on your resume. Elaborate a bit more over your relevant experience. Explain why you're a good fit. Again, this is free verse. You have the opportunity to go in your body paragraphs and say, this is why I would be successful. This is my history. Sell yourself to me. Again, not as a car salesman, but as a presenter. This is what I do. This is what I can do. Go in, describe your vision, peel back that curtain, show the team what they will actually gain, and then make sure that you do satisfy all the job posting requirements. I can't tell you how many times I've even disqualified people who hire for positions because they don't satisfy all the requirements and requests that I put in the job application that I wanted to see in their cover letter. It's a great way to get yourself disqualified. So double check, make sure that everything is in line before you submit it. Let's keep going. Here's two, again, just quick Google examples of letters. Again, nothing too flashy. They've both got a little color at the top. It's fine. It's not too distracting. I wouldn't go much further than the one on the right, but the one on the left looks perfect to me. And again, this can be a couple paragraphs. This can go more than one page if you need it. But again, if you can keep this to one page, I don't want to read a book. I want to read something that's going to give me a little bit more color and insight into your resume. But I don't want to be reading this for an hour in my bed. What we're going to do, though, because those were just Google examples, in the coming weeks, we're going to provide you a template. An actual template from VATUSA that you can use to create your own cover letter and to create your own resume in a manner through our experience that we feel best serves the positions that we have in VATUSA. Like I said, some of this won't apply to the real world, maybe in this template, but I do believe that a lot of this information you're able to apply in all regards. And this template will be one of those things that you would be able to use in the real world if you wanted to. So keep your eyes out in the next couple of weeks. We'll be releasing a template for both the cover letter and for your resume. And guys, finally, the most important thing about this is your communication to the hiring panel. You have to actually take the time to write an email and make it good. Include the appropriate greeting and signature. Ensure that you actually attach your documents, right? That's always the great thing about Google. It flashes a little message at you and says, hey, you use the word attach in your message, but nothing's there. Nothing more embarrassing than having to just follow up real quick because you realize that you didn't actually send over your cover letter and resume. You also need to make sure that your cover letter and resume are actually in document form, preferably PDF, but they should not just be handwritten out in email form. They are separate documents that should be taken time into developing. Check your spelling and grammar. Enough said. Maintain a professional tone. We don't want YOLOs and LOLs and LMFAOs in this. You can have a personality. This does not mean you have to be strict, but you do need to keep it in the professional tone and manner. Just put effort into your communications and respond in a timely manner. Right? If you're showing that you want the job and you're putting a dedication into checking, even in just a couple of days, that's fine. Don't leave your hiring manager on red for a week without them knowing. Effective communication is everything. So now that we've gotten through all this, you've been invited to the interview. Congratulations. Now we need to prep for it. This is one slide of 5 tips, 5 easy tips that you can do to ace your interview. First off, do your homework. Do not show up to the interview and just not know anything about the Arctic. We encourage for members who are interested in going elsewhere to be a staff member to talk to somebody over in that Arctic. Figure out, hey, what's going on? You know, is there any cool airspace, or what's the community like right now? Learning about the current needs and wants. This is again going to show to the hiring committee that you're, even despite not being a home or visiting controller there, you can take the initiative to go and learn about something new and present about it and come up with new ideas. Because being a staff member is not easy, and it certainly is not going to be a typical day all the time. You're going to have to be able to ebb and flow, and going into a new Arctic, talking with their community and learning something and presenting about it, that definitely demonstrates great qualities for us. It's really important to be yourself. It's just a conversation. We're all people. Okay, the worst thing that happens after this is they say we don't hire you, right? You're not going to die. You're going to be just fine, and you're probably going to be even respected by the staff for coming in and applying to be in that role, right? We pay attention to the people who volunteer their time in the division, because it's not only important for ourselves, for the continuation of our hobby, but we look at it as our responsibility to provide opportunities for you guys to learn. And so for those who have stuck around and have heard this conversation, you'll know that we want you to succeed. If you don't know, you don't know. Do not lie or create fictional stories in your interview. It's so obvious. It is so obvious. I've done probably over 30 interviews in the last year and a half on VATSIM alone, and I can pick out a fake story a mile away. You always have to think about it. You're stuttering over your words. You're coming up with something. I'll ask questions. It'll go the wrong way. It just doesn't end up working out for you. I respect somebody who says, you know what, I actually don't have an answer to that question, but I would be happy to follow up with you and get you an answer on that. Because maybe they ask you a facility specific question and you're not a controller there. It is okay to say, I don't know. That gives us an honest understanding. And if it does lead to you not getting the job, then that's okay, because you will have a learning experience and know what to prepare for the next time. Because getting no in one interview does not mean you'll get no in the next. Be early. First impressions matter, right? You don't want to show up late to your interview. Just a normal thing. And always, always, always bring at least 2 questions to your interview. It's weird after the interview team just asked, series of questions for 45 minutes, and then the panel asks the interviewee, say, you have anything for us? And they go, nope, I'm good. As if you have all the answers already and you know exactly what you're going to get into. There's no way anybody knows exactly what they're going to get into. maybe unless you were already on the events team and you were going for the EC job. But then again, there's probably at least one or two things you can ask. Even if it feels stupid, just ask a question or two. It shows that you're interested in the role and you're dedicated to it, right? You've put some serious thought in. You didn't just show up to the interview and say, whatever happens, happens. Guys, the last part about this is some tips and tricks for starting your new role. Let's create a plan for success, right? Let's get in that mindset and establish our expectations from the get-go. Talk with your supervisor and understand what is going to be expected of you, any limitations that are going to be placed on you, right? You may not get the full reign at the very beginning, especially if you're brand new to the role. The great thing about our structure is you always have somebody that you can go to for help. And sometimes that carries around limitations at the beginning. That's not a negative thing. That really shouldn't be annoying. Just think of it as an opportunity for you to prove yourself and continue to grow. Again, ask those questions. Ask your supervisor, your peers, your trusted advisor for help whenever you need it. People are more than welcome to come ask myself, other VATUSA staff, other ATMs questions, even if they don't feel like it would apply or it's not our responsibility. Come and ask. Okay, we're happy to help. We're happy to talk. We've got each person has a different set of skills and different experiences, and them combined is our true success factor and our key to success. So you should probably actually be encouraged to go out and talk to somebody new about something. You don't always have to stick in the same place. You should also welcome feedback, right? Continue to seek to improve and continue learning long after you've been onboarded. There's always something to learn. I continue to learn from my ATMs in my roles and things that I do that maybe I made a mistake or I could have done something better. I store that for the next time. Nobody's perfect and everybody is going to mess up at some point. And sometimes it's big, and that's okay because we all do understand that we're all human. You have that support network of supervisor, peers, trusted advisors to help you get through that and learn. Finally, collaborate. Okay, if you're having a role in your Arctic or on your team, you're probably not the only one. Just like that example earlier, the Cleveland EC is not the only EC in the division. They have people right next door, and go talk to New York and Indy and Cleveland and the Chicago and a whole bunch of other people. Even if they wanted to go talk to LA and Oakland, there are other people on this network that are able to help you and would benefit from you sharing your failures and successes. Start thinking about a team rather than just a solo role. That's where we're heading at the division high level. So I'm going to end it there. We're going to review. We have talked about a lot. We identified our talents. We discussed the role application materials. We uncovered how we can prep for an interview and what to do in that interview. And then we shared a couple of tips and tricks for you starting your new role. So I'm going to open this up for some Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a second, but I wanted to thank everybody who stuck around. I have no idea how many people we have, but I appreciate everybody. If you've got questions, you can Discord message me or email me after this if you'd like to talk one-on-one. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share, and I'm going to open up the chat, and I'm going to see if we have any questions or anything else to address. Oh, we have 11 people left. Also would love feedback on this. Was this a waste of time? Was this something that you learned something from? Even if you only learned one thing, it'd be worth my time. And then hopefully I didn't put a lot of people to sleep. I think I kicked about 25 people out with my boring talk. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate that. Yeah, it really trying to just bestow my knowledge and my experience on you guys from lessons that I've had to learn the hard way. So I'm
I
gonna
got a
hang on for just
I got a
yeah,
question for you. What was your
yeah,
very
Jared.
first? What was your very first VATSIM staff position?
It's a great question. I was proud to start off as a mentor and assistant facility engineer in the Houston Arctic as an S2. I worked my way up into being an instructor there, the TA of Fort Worth, DATM and ATM of Denver, events manager for VAT USA, VAT USA 4, the support director, and then my current role here. So I've made a career out of VATSIM. It's been a great couple of years. I'm not going to count them for my sanity. But I really have enjoyed getting to serve this community. There's just a lot to learn from everybody. It's a group of passionate people. We get to serve thousands of people. Um, there's just no day is the same. I love doing what I do with the people I do it with. Um, there's just not a lot to complain about. No matter how much I can come up with stuff, the pros always outweigh the cons.
Yep. And just to add to that, I think in VATSIM, just like in real world, don't give up. Even if a job that you're in you don't really like, keep looking. You will. There is something that will fit you here. We have jobs for everybody.
Yeah, and the biggest thing about this is you don't have to have a staff title to contribute. You can make an impact by being a part of that team. Okay, you don't have to worry about being one of the 6 designated people or being VAT USA 3 and VAT USA 7 and VAT USA 17 to make an impact. Um, Help out your buddy, right? If you know something and you're like, hey, you know, I'd love to help you out with VFR tower operations. Hey, man, I mean, I'd love to help out on the tech team. I'm pretty good at designing web pages or designing graphics. Would there be anything that I can help out with? There's always stuff to do. That's the amazing part about this too is no matter how much I knock off my to-do list, it's always longer at the end of the day. It's always longer, and one of the most annoying things in the world, and one of the things that'll definitely keep me and my particular personality going.
Yep. Robbie had a question for you.
Yeah, let's see. Robbie's question. Thank you, Brandon. This was great. Quick question. If a position posting does not specify to include a cover letter, should you still include one? That's a great question. Typically, I try not to do more than what is required. That's how I definitely approach like real world postings. On VATSIM, it's I'm going to call it dealer's choice. I'm going to call it yours. If it's not required, you will not get it counted against you. That's the most important thing to lay down. If it's not required, it's not going to count against you. But I do think that if you were so inspired to write even a short cover letter, sometimes that can even be the differentiating factor by giving your hiring team just enough extra information on top of that resume in order to connect how your resume satisfies the job requirements. Sometimes that's just enough to even kind of prime your interview to walk in and say, well, as I described in my cover letter, I had this experience, which as you required in your position, satisfies that. So, no, it's not going to hurt you. But if the question is, should you still include one? I leave that up to you. We have Chris here.
Hi, Brandon. Hi, Jared. Quick question for you. Obviously, I work for the social media team, and thank you to Lucas for recording this evening. He's one of our members. For those viewers that are watching this after the fact, do you have to be an air traffic controller with a certain rating to be able to apply for different VAT USA positions that may or may not be advertised?
It's a great question, and that is always clearly laid out in the job posting. So the 6 defined staff positions do require you to be a home controller in that Arctic, and typically of a rating higher than S2. Each role does have specific requirements, again listed. But there are some opportunities to get involved, even if you are just a pilot. Again, everything will be listed out in the in each particular job posting. But some of those opportunities, like social media team and our tech team, if you're a member of our division, we've kind of begun to evolve and say you don't have to be a controller to be a member of VATUSA, because in reality, everyone who flies in the United States is affected, is a member of VATUSA. You're just a pilot member, right? So we are expanding our efforts into the pilot community, and it would only make sense for us to welcome in those who are pilots and who want to give back to the VATUSA community. So it's a very relatively new thing. There are definitely opportunities for anybody to get involved if they're interested. So thank you for that question, Chris. Anyone else have questions for us? All right. Well, to all those who are watching after the fact, thank you for tuning in. For those who have stuck around to the end, thank you so much. We hope that this was informative, and you could at least take something away from this to help you better market yourself in the real world when applying for roles, when thinking about yourself as more than just a member of the Arctic, but a true contributor. There are so many ways to get involved. Sometimes all you need to do is just take the first step and ask someone, hey, how can I help? So thank you so much. Feel free to email me or message me with questions. And I hope you all have a great rest of your night. Thank you very much.